Hello and welcome back to The Hatch. I'm Rosie Murphy.
And I'm Sammy Roth, and this is the podcast where we talk about Lost.
This is a special bonus episode. We are currently taking a bit of a break during Season 2. Sammy's preoccupied with the World Series, and we've both just been busy. But we are delighted to bring you a bonus episode this week. Sammy, what are we listening to?
So, as we mentioned on the podcast recently, I was lucky enough to attend a concert in Los Angeles at the Hollywood Bowl that Michael Giacchino, the composer for Lost, and his Symphony Orchestra put on, where they played selections of the score from Lost. And as part of that concert, there was a Q&A with a bunch of members of the cast. Josh Holloway was there, Emilie de Ravin, Dae Kim, Damon Lindelof, and Carlton, Cuse as well. So we have got the audio of the Q&A and a couple of other special pieces from the concert.
So let's jump right in with that panel discussion.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for coming tonight. What do you want to do?
Nah, just hang out.
Seriously.
Drink wine.
You want to go back, huh? We're going to go back. We're going to play some old stuff. Maybe we'll play something new, you know. It all depends on how everyone behaves. You know, we'll just play it through and see how it goes. You guys know these gentlemen on either side of me, right? I think back in the day, we referred to them as Cuse. Something like that. I don't know. Cuseloff. Darlton. I like Darlton. We'll vote later. So look, this is a very loose sort of talk. We're here, so I'll let them say hi, and we'll make it up as we go.
Hi guys. No, we are so happy to be here tonight. I mean, you know, we can't even express how much the show meant to all of us, and we're really honored to be here with you guys who really love the show too. And you know, we're happy to answer almost any question. Well, some questions, maybe like 2 questions.
Yeah, we're a little rusty. Not that we were ever particularly strong in the answering of questions department, but
this many years by, if somebody asked us who the dude was that Saeed shot on that golf course, like, I don't even remember.
I remember it was on the 7th hole, but not much else. No, just to kind of echo what Carlton said, it's amazing that we're about 14 years from the week that the show premiered in 2004, and that you guys are all still here, and the opportunity. Thank you. The opportunity to revisit the show, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into the actual program, but especially through Michael's beautiful music and these talented musicians who are going to play it is just beyond a delight for us. But before we dive in, it's just we feel like anything that we can do to bring clarity to the show, to clear up some misconceptions.
We won't be doing.
Yeah, that's probably unlikely. But this is your time. So if anybody has any questions. Is there a mic in the audience?
There are some down here at the front. If you come down to the front.
So it looks like there's mics up here. So if you just want to queue up and step to the mics, we're happy to.
Please go.
Yeah, it's just like Comic-Con. Okay.
Yes.
Shoot.
Hi.
My name is Laurel. I'm an aspiring writer, and I was wondering if I could give each of you a copy of my resume. For me to be a writer's assistant or PA, I have agency experience.
Have you ever seen Lost?
6 times.
Okay, then we will. Oh, very much. Thank you.
I also have a real question pertaining to the show. So I know that you guys had a much grander story in mind for Walt, in terms of how he affected electromagnetism, how he made the birds act strangely. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about what your plans for him were.
So the question was, in case you missed it, what were our original plans for Walt and how he affects electromagnetism, and so we're just kicking it off with the softball. Carlton, you want to field that one?
I'll let you deal with the electromagnetism part.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is that the show, I think Great Nations would say the show actually takes place over like 100 days, but it was shot over 6 years. So unfortunately, Malcolm was growing.
Fortunately,
Malcolm was growing.
Yes.
So it was just hard because, you know, he was getting, you know, he was growing faster than the show was progressing narratively. So that ended up limiting what we could do with him. Plus, then when he was captured by the others, it was just so cool.
Thank you.
We're gonna just blow off the electromagnetism part.
What else is new?
So I have a question for the showrunners. Do you find the irony that in the Lost World, a big fat carrot was responsible for saving the world, but in the real world, there's a big fat carrot who might destroy it?
Fascinating.
Well done.
Yeah, we're not going to be political tonight. Yes, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thanks for the show.
Thank you.
My question is about Aaron Boone. Aaron was born on the same day that Boone died, and is there any correlation between those names and Aaron Boone hitting a home run which extended the Curse of the Bambino in 2003? Or is it just a complete coincidence?
Okay, so we have a question that is attempting to connect Claire's baby, Boone, played by Ian Somerhalder, and Aaron Boone, Yankee slugger, correct? Not connected.
I just
So
always wondered.
I'm glad we could clear that up, but it's a fascinating theory.
All right.
Over here, sir.
Yes, sir. First of all, Michael, Damon, Carlton, thanks for doing this. This is awesome. We love you up in Canada. We won't be political, but we love you up there. So my question is, mid-2000s, Lost comes out. You get 20 episodes a season. You get non-serialized television is the norm. Move forward 12 years, 10-episode seasons, serialized television, binge watching, streaming. How is Lost a different show if it comes out today?
Oh,
Great question.
we'd probably make 2 episodes.
I definitely think, you know, and we did 25 hours of the show the first year, 24 the second, 23 the third, and then there was a writer's strike in the fourth, and by then we had negotiated an end date. But I think that...
I think it was 14, 17, and 18.
Yeah, we probably would have done 10 to 13 episodes a season, and been a lot more focused in our storytelling. And I think that when you look at the Pantheon shows that we all love, whether they're serialized or not, and I think there's something like less than 90 episodes of Breaking Bad all in, same with Sopranos and other great shows like Deadwood or The Americans, and there were 121 hours of Lost. As much as we love doing the show, probably would have been better around 75 or 80. You know, maybe there would have been some things last year. What the? What? Oh, Holloway!
I've heard about enough. I need man hugs, man hugs. Hello. Oh, I'll sit right over there. Musical chairs. What nonsense were you guys feeding these people?
They're asking questions, and we're giving definitive answers for once.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I think you're up next here.
So hi guys, thank you obviously for this. But So you guys said before Mr. Echo, you guys had plans for him later in the show, but he had to the actor had to leave the show, obviously. But you guys said that he had you hoped for a deeper role for him later on in the show. Can you maybe explain what kind of role he would have played later on in the show?
Adewale. More actors coming.
That is not a prop.
No, this one's real.
You're not going to get any
Finally,
of your
you
questions
get
answered. None.
10 minutes later.
We can just pull these out of here.
Just
The gentleman.
Yeah, that'll be easier. Hey, guys. How's everyone?
All right. I think we've interrupted your question a few times here. Do you want to repeat your question?
I'm not complaining anyways. Thank you guys for all coming.
We had a quick Mr. Echo question, and then we're going to answer it, but I also feel like we have all these incredible actors on the stage, and they should just have an opportunity to say hi and talk a little bit about their experience on Lost, etc., and then we'll get back to the questions. But
we're not getting back to the questions. What a stall. That is an incredible stall.
The tail section was season 2. We brought in Mr. Echo, Ana Lucia, Libby, Bernard. Michelle Rodriguez told Carlton and I that she was only going to do the show for 1 season, and so when she came in, we knew that we were going to be killing off Ana Lucia's character by the end of the season, and we had worked out arcs for Mr. Echo beyond season 2, but Adewale did not like Hawaii at all. And I think that these guys can probably talk to it, but, being on the show, everyone's like, what? Hawaii, it's the most awesome thing in the world. It's an island, It's far away. He lived in London, and so he asked us to kill Mr. Echo off, and we did early in season 3. And so the plan for Mr.
He was afraid of me and Dan.
Yeah.
Remember that? Me and Dan and Harold had that fight scene when we almost took him.
That's
like
right. That's exactly what happened.
But he beat us all up and threw us in the sand.
I'd forgotten that. That's exactly what it is.
But we almost had him and we scared him. Anyway.
That's the more accurate response. And so what ended up happening was that a lot of the story that we had planned for Mr. Echo went to Desmond and went to Benjamin Linus. So as a result of Adewale opting out of the show, Michael Emerson and Ian Cusick were able to elevate. So everything happens for a reason, is my understanding. But I think we should just pass the mic down, and the actors should all say hi. And
Hey. I'm Andrea, a.k.a. Nadia. And, super psyched to be here. It was an honor being on the show. I am so proud to be here tonight with everybody, and just thank you for having me, and it's beautiful to see you guys.
Hi, I'm Emilie. Hi, Paige. This is awesome, you guys. Thank you mainly for doing this, man. It's so cool, and I don't know. Well, Daniel, I was just saying, Daniel has not aged, which is still freaking me out. I don't understand it, but you haven't, man. Josh on the other. It's so nice being back with you guys. Even though it's not everyone, it feels kind of like yesterday, weirdly. Like really strange and really beautiful, and this show holds like a massively big part in my heart. And thank you all for being here, and hope you enjoy it and have fun.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Mader, also known as Charlotte Steeples-Lewis. Born July 2nd, 1979.
Or 70.
Lost was in the top 3 biggest gifts of my entire life. It changed my whole life and changed my career, and the fact that we're still able to play in the sandpit of Lost is such a blessing that it's still relevant and still sexy, and it changed the face of television, and I feel completely honoured to have been a part of it, and thanks for being here.
I will just say that, you know, a question I get asked a lot is, what's the favorite thing you've ever worked on? You know, I jump around from a lot of things in what I do, and inevitably, you know, every time my answer is Lost. Lost was my favorite thing. It was, and I give these guys a lot of credit for that because they just let me be me on that show. So of all the music I have written, I feel like Lost is the most me. So thank you.
Wow, what do you say about Lost? It changed my life in every way. Someone gave me a job. Finally. And didn't fire me. I thought I'd be fired. Every season, they like put me on that cliffhanger right at the end. Like, you're dead, Holloway. You're dead. So that was tough. But it was fun and amazing, and the music was incredible, and it's amazing to be here and meet the musicians and actually hear it live is something different, you know, and not a lost art yet, thanks to this man, but, you know, becoming so. So it's amazing. Thank you.
Well, I'll say what we all used to say and say, aloha. Or as maybe Jin would say, 안녕하세요. I'm super... That's right. I'm super thrilled to be back here. You know, it's been 14 years since the show premiered, and all of us have done so many incredible things since then, everyone on this stage. But whenever I'm asked about what my most special experience is, the answer is always Lost, because of these gentlemen right here, and these ladies over here, and Michael Giacchino here, who I'm just a big fan of. And so when I was asked to be a part of this tonight, I was just super thrilled because I want to hear the music as much as you guys do. So thank you. Yes, ma'am.
More questions.
Did you want to introduce yourself? I'm just kidding. Hi, so this is like the best night of my life. All right. I remember being like 13 years old and telling my mom, like, I'm going to get a Lost tattoo. And she was like, the hell you are. And now here I am, like half asleep. And she's like, fine. Well, okay, I have so much to say. First off, Damon, you weren't here last time. So I just want to say, The Leftovers, that shit was phenomenal. Yeah. Thank you for that. You were like 2 for 2 on dope-ass finales, so like...
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a couple questions, I guess. The first one, just a quick question, is, Michael, do you have any plans to EGOT? Because that shit's coming up, baby girl. Like
I don't know. I mean, look, I kind of just go after the things that look fun to do with people who I could actually be in a room with for months on end. You know, that's my qualifier.
Yeah. You
know, for the work I do, and if it takes me in that direction, that's amazing. If it doesn't, I'm happy. So
Michael was actually telling me backstage that he wanted to PGOT, which is the People's Choice Award. And I just wanted to let you know that I embrace it. Good
for you. My other little question was, well, not a little question really, but can you soothe my soul and like sort of confirm right now that there will never be a reboot and or sequel to this show? Because it's good the way it is. We don't need like Bradley Cooper coming in to reboot.
Well, now that you mentioned Bradley Cooper, Yeah. He's like looking around. We have, Damon and I have said many times in many forums that we have no plans to do it. I mean, Disney owns the property, and I think they have every right to do what they want with it. I mean, we got to tell the story that we wanted to tell, and we would have no bad feelings if someone else came in and came up with a great story that takes place in the world of Lost. But we have no plans to do anything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Rubba lubba dub dub. He's wearing a Rick and Morty t-shirt. Yes, sir.
I'm a huge... Jesus, I sound... I'm a huge fan of your show. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, I'm a black dude from the ghetto, and like, I'm a TV nerd. I love all types of television, but your television show came in out of nowhere and blew my mind. Michael Giacchino, your music made me cry so many times. Oh my God. But my question is, what's the deal with Jacob's cabin and with the ash all around it? Like, why? What did it like contain his spirit and he couldn't leave or something like that? And also, last thing, I have my lost Blu-ray. I would like you to sign, please. But I forgot the marker. Okay, it's at my seat as well. I forgot it as well. But to the question, sorry.
The first part and the last part was great.
Do you want to? We will absolutely sign your DVD. We'll hang out when the concert finishes. And as for Jacob's cabin, what's the deal with it? Is that the?
Not like that. I mean, like, why did the Man in Black use that place? Like, why was he stuck there? And like, why when Dang, I forgot her name.
So did we.
No, I'm super nervous.
Yeah.
But yes, Alana. Yeah. When she was like, oh man, like they burnt the little thing in the wire. Oh my God.
We are going to take your email address and shoot you off a very detailed response to that. Suffice to say, there was a plan. There was a plan.
We're glad you liked it.
Yes.
Okay.
Next.
Come back.
So I got up here to ask a question to Michael about the music because we're at the Lost concert, and then all y'all showed up. So I'm going to change my question.
No, it's fine. You're going to get plenty of me later. Don't worry about it.
So I know, Josh, you mentioned a little bit in your intro that there's cliffhangers at the end of the season, and you don't really know what's going to happen. So how is acting on Lost different than other things where you get the whole script, you know the ending, you know what your character story is going to be? to any of the actors, not to single you out, Josh.
Everything else is boring. I mean, after they do that to you, they hang you over a cliff so many times that you got to go there to get your adrenaline run. So now I'm like, yeah, I know the end of this one. No, truly, material is everything. You know, you can act a bad piece of music perfectly, and it's still going to be a bad piece of music. Lost was specific. Lost was a dream in material. So that is rare in what we do, and I've been honored to work on some great things, but Lost still stands out as the best. So.
I think you're up. Yes, go.
Hi, my name is Irish, and I flew here from North Carolina, escaped the hurricane. Thank you.
Wow,
Thank
cool.
you. Watched the show from the very beginning, and my question is, first of all, Damon, I have defended the finale to my death. I will defend the finale, okay? But my question is, if you could add one character, and really the question for anybody, who would you add to be in the church? And if I can answer for myself, I about fainted, Andrea, when you walked out, because I would have added Nadia. I would have added Helen and Vincent. So, yeah.
Bradley Cooper. just as himself, yes.
Yeah, perfect.
First off, thank you so much for saying that and for defending the finale. I think that somehow, over time it's gotten out there that I feel like the finale needs to be defended versus me acknowledging that there was, people out there who didn't like it or found it unsatisfying. But just for the record, Carlton and I have always felt this way, as I feel like almost everybody on the stage does, which is that we stand by it and we love it, and we were able to write exactly the finale that we wanted to. The show can't be all things to all people, and I think that metaphor also functions into the church, which is we had long and involved conversations in the writers' room about who would be in there, particularly relating to Michael and Walt, and then there were practical considerations of, if Walt's in there, what age would he be? Because, now everybody else has sort of stopped at the age that they were on the show, but Walt would be a teenager. And then when we started to talk about Faraday or Charlotte, then it became, there's going to be 80 million people in the church, and they're just going to be hugging each other for 4 hours. So it was...
That might have worked, too.
It was not unlike, for those of us who have gotten married, when you're putting together your wedding invitations, and you start with that list of 325 people, and you say, shit, we don't have the money for this. We've just got to winnow it down. And so the answer to your question is there are a lot of people that I think should have been in that church and weren't, but we made the decision that we made at the time, and we all got to live with it.
Yep, it was perfect.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So for the audiophiles out there like me, where can I get my expanded vinyl box set of all the soundtracks? And also, my favorite part of watching the show was the podcast afterwards, where Carlton would just go off on like werewolf cops driving Ferraris and stuff like that. So how can I get that once a week? I pay for it.
Well, we're working on the records. We're hoping to do that soon. We've been wanting to do that for a long time as well. Thankfully, records came back into style. So, because you remember when we started this show, did anyone play a record? No. So anyway, Desmond played a record. That's right. Yeah, Desmond. Yeah, he was the only one. Started a trend. And as to your other question, I'd pay for it too.
We just did that it kind of was this weird thing that just came up, and we started doing it for fun, and it was actually making the show was really hard, in this environment now where you're making 10 episodes of Watchmen. I just spent like 3 years making 8 episodes of Jack Ryan, and so like the idea that we were doing like 25 or 24, 23, it's like people who lift cars off of babies, it just doesn't even seem kind of conceivable how we actually did that. But doing the podcast was this sort of fun little break that we did in the middle. The thing is, like, without the show, Damon and I have nothing to talk about.
I disagree.
This is the first time we've seen each other.
But thank you. We really appreciate that you like them. Thanks.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
So ABC was able to revive Roseanne, and so I'm one of those people who would love to see a revival of Lost. I'm sorry.
No.
No, I would like to see the adventures of Walt or Erin or Ji Young. Is that her name? The daughter? Yeah. My question is, what would you guys like to see in a revival of Lost if you were to do it or not do it?
I'll let you answer this question.
Yeah.
What would I like to? I'd like to see my daughter too. because we kind of left her behind. So The Adventures of Gian sounds like a great spin-off.
I'd like to see me executive producing it and sitting on a beach somewhere with a pina colada, collecting cash, because I'm too old to be on it.
Let me just say one thing. Which is, one of the things that we actively talked about in the writers' room once we were able to negotiate an end date for the series was how can we prevent ABC from ever rebooting the show? And so we came up with a very simple strategy, which is we were going to kill off every character, and then not only kill them off, but then show their afterlife experience, and then just say like, what, to the point where why would you want to see any of them ever again once you know what their eventual outcome is? But I do agree with what Carlton said, which is they have the right to reboot it. We all have to wrap our brains around the fact that it's going to happen. I'd be a hypocrite because everything I do, I'm ripping off from someone else. It's sort of like, how dare you rip off Lost? I'm just going to go write another Star Trek script, and I'm busy on Watchmen. I'm kind of curious about what it's going to be, but I don't think that that we're going to be a part of it. So we're going to, we'll be amongst you guys and experiencing the show in the way that you guys did, which is what's going to happen, and do these people know what they're fucking doing? I'm looking forward to becoming a member of the audience.
Thank you.
Sir.
I've gotten the chance to read some of your scripts before, and something that's unique about Lost scripts is that a lot of times they mention Michael's music directly in the script, and then Michael's music carries us out to the act, When did that relationship develop for you guys? Obviously, episode 1, you probably didn't have that until you actually started hearing the music and were able to write to it. And then also, Michael, is that normal for you to have people write your name into a script?
No. In fact, I didn't even know that was happening because the way I worked on Lost, I never read a script. I didn't want to know what was happening. In fact, we never had spotting sessions. I would get the episode, and I would literally start from the beginning and score till the end. And that way, I felt the music could be reactive and properly emotional to what was happening. So I never knew about this till about 4 seasons in or something. Someone said, "Do you know they put your name in the script?" I'm like, "What? Who does that?" So,
I mean, basically, I think once we started watching the show, we realized how additive Michael's music was, and making a TV show, especially that many episodes per season, is a little bit about like putting out an apartment fire with a garden hose. And there were scenes where we felt like what we put on the page was good, but that Michael would literally bring it home, and that he could add this whole other dimension emotionally with the music. So we were like, okay, we've gotten it this far on the script with the words, and then Michael will bring it home. And then we were just like, let's just put that literally in the scripts. And that's how it came about. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
actually, we have to start wrapping up because we have an orchestra off stage waiting to get on.
Oh, yeah. So you get to be the last question.
Hello, my name is Emilie. And I just say thank you for the TV show. I like the actor, I like music, and thank you. It was a dream for me to meet you. And the little question for you, Michael, do you make a concert in France? Sorry, my English is not good.
I would love to. I mean, I would love to do one in London and France and New York, everywhere. It's about finding the time to do it, and that's always what it's about, you know, in between other jobs and in between things, because it's not something I take on the road and do for like months on end. So it's about, we have to target certain times. So hopefully
I
soon.
wait you.
Yes, absolutely.
We're not going to do better than having a last question from the French woman. So,
yes.
We'll all be back in a few minutes. Thank you guys so much. We will see you shortly.
Thank you.
So So, the thing that stands out most to me, and I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but honestly, it had never occurred to me that someone might try to reboot Lost or to do a spin-off. And that seems dumb because we do reboots and spin-offs and sequels of everything in this day and age. But I had never thought of that before, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, so much just depends on, frankly, the quality of what's done. Like,
yeah,
I think that a lot of people, you heard some of them, asking these questions, and who would say, "Oh, this should never happen. It's terrible." Mm-hmm. Some people who would be inherently excited, but at the end, whether it works, I think it's just whether someone makes something good or not.
If Disney came to you and said, "Sammy, we are doing a Lost reboot, no matter what, you cannot say anything, but you get to decide what it's going to be about," what would you choose? Would it be one of the kids?
Oh, this is so much pressure.
Would it be a prequel?
I think I would recommend a story that takes place on the island at a different time in the island's history than the period during which we watched the show.
Okay.
I think you could do something really interesting about the early conflict between the hostiles and, other people who came to the island, the Dharma Initiative, maybe the U.S. Army. You could do a story that takes place in the future after the survivors of Oceanic 815 have been there, where, maybe you get to a point in the show where, you discover that, dozens or hundreds of thousands of years later, like, Hurley is still there as the protector of the island. That'd be what I would recommend. Something that starts on the island at a different time in history, and then over time you sort of find connections or maybe some of the same characters we've seen before.
I agree with that. Like, I could stand for some of the stories that we get glimpses of during the time traveling sequences, like a whole season of Dharma. What was that about? What storylines took place within that community? I think I could be okay with that. And same with the army camp, and maybe even the same with like Richard's ship.
Yeah. I mean, you could even go earlier if you wanted to. You could do origin, more with Jacob and the Man in Black. You could do the story of whoever built the Egyptian statue.
That I'd want to know. I'm not that keen on the Jacob Man in Black story, mostly because, well, then they would have to name the Man in Black, which I would actually like. But I mean, hell, like who built the temple? We could also go down that route. As much as we, are not fans of the temple in this house.
I think it could be a fabulous way to build out the mythology of the show.
I think so
do a story
too.
Like that.
Yeah, and one of the challenges I think with doing those kind of prequels or, open up this chapter into a whole series pieces is that fans tend to feel like this isn't canon or this isn't honest, or somehow like if it's not created by Damon and Carlton, like it doesn't belong. But yeah, I suppose if it is inevitable, and it probably is, we may as well come to terms with it.
You may as well. Disney is not going to let the IP lie dormant forever.
No, if there's money to be made, it shall.
One or two other things I just wanted to quickly pull out of that conversation before we move on to the other stuff. I was so happy. One, I was happy that Andrea Gabriel was there at this event.
Yeah.
She is, as you know, a friend of the pod. We had her on last season.
I mean, at this point, technically Damon is also a friend of the pod.
Hell yeah, Damon, friend of the Hatch podcast. No, I was happy that she said that she wished she was in the church, because that's what we said.
Yeah.
So, right on. And also, I love that. I love, you're hearing Michael Giacchino and Josh Holloway both say that this was the best thing they ever worked on.
Yeah.
And it just made me feel like, good. It's as special as them, for them as it is for us. Like, that was kind of a nice.
And both of them have gone on to do remarkable work elsewhere, as has everyone involved in Lost. But it does make me happy to know that it still has a special place in their hearts, as it does for us.
It does. So should we do the other things?
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to hear, which, as I understand from you, took place between pieces of music at the event, is live readings from the text of the screenplay. So the dialogue, also the stage directions, also notes to the actors and to Michael Giacchino. Really, really cool to hear. I had never read and heard anything like this before.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we're going to hear 3 scenes from the show, one read by Josh Holloway, then one from Dae Kim, and finally one from Emilie de Ravin.
Hello. I'm going to read a little scene here from Season 2, Episode 1, Man of Science, Man of Faith. Exterior jungle night. Walking ahead of Hurley and Kate, we find Locke, banged up but more intense than ever as he goes about wrapping his torch with some more dry fuel. Lights it as Jack appears behind him, stops a good 10 feet away. A beat as they size each other up. I need for you to explain to me what the hell is going on inside your head, Locke. I need to know why you believe. I believe I was being tested. And in the face of Jack's outright anger, Locke is zen. He speaks completely innocently. Tested? Yes, tested. I think that's why you and I don't see eye to eye sometimes, Jack. Because you're a man of science. Yeah, what's that make you? Me? Well, I'm a man of faith. Jack's radar on this guy may have been up before, but now he is fucking worried. If we push in on Locke, the orange light of the torch reflected in his eyes. Do you really think all of this is an accident? That we, a group of strangers, survived? Many of us with just superficial injuries. You think that we just crashed in this place by coincidence? Especially this place? We were brought here for a purpose, for a reason. All of us. Each one of us was brought here for a reason. Brought here? Who was it? The island. The island brought us here. This is no ordinary place. You've seen it. I know you have. The island shows you too, Jack. It's destiny. On Jack, shaking for a beat. Yes, he has seen some weird shit, but this, Jack's eyes go hardcore. You talked to Boone about destiny, John? Fuck. And for the first time, Locke hesitates. But it's just for a flash, a peek. Because then, Boone was a sacrifice the island demanded. What happened to him at that plane was all part of a chain of events that led us here, led us down a path, led you and me to this day, to right now. Jack just looks at him. Then, where's the path end, John? And Locke acts as if he's just been asked the most obvious question in the history of fucking questions. The path leads to the hatch. The hatch, Jack. All of this, all of it happened so we can open the hatch. We're opening the hatch because we're trying to survive. Survival is all relative, Jack. Jack shakes his head. This is fucking insane. I don't believe in destiny. Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. And as Locke walks off, we push in on Jack. He might not believe in destiny, but he believes this. John Locke is off his nut.
Welcome back, Daniel.
Y'all were asking about how in the script, Michael Giacchino's music is named. I'm going to read you a little section here where we actually call him out. This is called Everyone Hates Hugo. It's from season 2. And this will give you a good idea how the scripts are written, because all of this will be stage directions. Exterior beach, night. That hopeful Giacchino music begins to play as we finally get the sense of hope again. And we're close on a jar of peanut butter. Widen to a surprised Charlie as Hurley hands it to him. widen further as Hurley moves on, and now we see his solution to the problem. Hurley is handing out the food to everyone on the beach. All of it. It's an island feast, and off the smiling faces of our castaways, the music carries us across to the beach. Night. Our feast is in full swing. We pan through what is a joyous celebration. The first they've experienced in 46 days. Bonfires cast a warm glow as castaways are clustered in small groups on the beach, sitting Indian style as they eat. Some gather around makeshift tables they've constructed out of the pieces of the fuselage. Charlie hands out the peanut butter to a thrilled Claire. She spoons it up and tastes it. She closes her eyes in heaven. It's even better than she imagined all those weeks ago. Shannon sits, feeding Vincent food as Sun appears and sits beside her. They exchange a look. Sun nods. It's done. Shannon nods back and slides some food over to Sun. Jack and Kate are side by side with a healthy selection of Hatch goodies in front of them. Kate reaches over with her fork and takes something from his stash. Jack smiles. Hurley moves through, passing out more food, getting high fives, pats on the back, and thanks from everyone. He passes Charlie, who stands up and gives him a huge bear hug. Hurley grins. Once again, everybody loves Hurley. And lastly, we settle on Rose. We pan down to see, in the palm of her hand, a single Apollo candy bar. She places it in her pocket for Bernard, just in case.
Let's welcome Emilie back.
I'm very small. I guess that's okay. This is beautiful, you guys. I'm already tearing up. If I'm not already now, I'm about to read season finale from season 3, Through the Looking Glass. Interior Looking Glass Station comm room. Kathum! The grenade, and Mikhail with it, explodes with a dull thud. An instant later, Christ, the portal implodes inwards with a rush of water. Psst. The monitor instantly doused, blinks out as water rushes in like a giant fire hose. The force is unstoppable. The portal too small for Charlie to swim out through. The comm room is rapidly filling like a fucking aquarium. And we're on Charlie as he suddenly realizes this is fucking it. This is his fucking destiny. Interior Looking Glass Station, outside the comm room. Desmond can see the rapidly filling room through the thick glass window on the door. No! Charlie! He rips the fire extinguisher off the wall, smashes it against the glass window again and again and again, but it's too thick. It doesn't even fucking chip as we go to Interior Looking Glass Station. Comm room continuous. Back on Charlie, knowing now that this is his fate, is truly upon him. An odd sense of calm comes over him, even as he watches Desmond frantically pounding away with the fire extinguisher. But there's one more thing he must do. He grabs his Sharpie, and as the water gushes in and rises around him, he writes something on his hand. And then he wades through the waist-deep water towards the door. He and Desmond meet eyes through the window. Charlie! Charlie! Desmond's wide-eyed. Charlie, serene. He gives Desmond a look of final farewell. Then he holds his hand up to the glass so Desmond can read the message he's written on it. Not Penny's boat. Desmond reads it. What? Baffled by what it means, but that doesn't matter now. Right now, what matters is that the water's coming up. The water's now up to Charlie's neck, and Desmond's fucking powerless as it now rises above his head. And Giacchino starts to play. As all the sound effects melt away, something slow and beautiful and haunting. Because of all the deaths we've endured, this one's gonna hurt the most. Completely underwater now, Charlie shares a final look with Desmond. And it's as clear to him as it is to us. Charlie's at peace. Holding it now as Charlie begins to float up and out of frame, ascending gracefully. Desmond's eyes filling with tears. Desmond's eyes filling with tears as Charlie's face is no longer visible in the window. Now his torso, his legs, and finally his feet. And then he is gone.
I got so sad listening to Emilie read Charlie's death.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And to hear how much detail it was written, like I could picture it. And I haven't watched that episode in a few years. But the detail with which they described, his nonverbal exchange with Desmond, and then like the peace that comes across him, and then as his body just floats upward, and
yeah,
whew, amazing.
Which is exactly how they filmed it.
Mm-hmm. It's also, I don't know why this is so funny to me, but it's funny to me that they swear in the screenplay. Particularly in Man of Science, Man of Faith, where they just say like Jack is fucking done, and stuff to that effect. Which
I also enjoyed
is
Jack's eyes go hardcore.
Yeah.
It's like, yep.
Pretty much, yeah. All right.
Oh, man.
What are we doing next?
So next there was this interesting interlude they did in the concert where Josh Holloway and Dae Kim came out and sort of did some banter with Michael Giacchino, but it leads into an interesting look at the different instruments in the orchestra and the roles that they played in the score of Lost. And also I should note that right before they did this, they played an advertisement for Mr. Cluck's Chicken Shack with Hurley. Which was filmed for, I think it was filmed for Comic-Con around season 5. But anyway, they showed that, and then you'll hear them talk about that as we lead into this.
Who doesn't love chicken, for God's sake? Without that bird, where would we be?
So, before we go any further, I would love for you guys to join us in giving these musicians a round of applause. Michael is a fantastic maestro, and to go with a fantastic maestro, you need a fantastic orchestra. Now, thinking about how important musicians are, and professional musicians, it made us want to talk a little bit about young musicians. So, when you get a moment, please read about musicians at play in your program. Now, this is a program that since its inception, over 5,000 children, parents, teachers, and other community members have participated in MAP's music mentorship programs. So we want to thank you for your support this evening, because the proceeds from the sales tonight will be utilized to inspire and educate the next generation of musical artists. Now, Michael, I don't know if you know this, but Josh and I fancy ourselves musicians.
Really? Really? What
Super pro.
What do you play?
Whatever.
Well, we're not good enough to have a garage band yet, so we kind of have a patio band.
It's a start.
Yeah.
It's a start. It's a
Got
good start.
like great lighting with a fire pit and stuff, whatever.
No, wait, you play bass?
You could call it that, yeah.
I know you play guitar. Ish.
But
Okay.
see, now that we're musicians, we've kind of come to appreciate the kind of sounds and the timbre of the various instruments. And we noticed that in a lot of your work, there's some sounds that we just don't really recognize. Just some, like...
And I know the spoons and the saw. And I don't see any of that.
No, we recognize the trombone at the end of certain pieces going,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But then there's like...
You know that JJ at one point said, you gotta stop doing that. you just can't do it at every commercial break.
It was a little...
Why not?
Kind of reminded me of one of Holloway's farts. And then you have some, some sounds of like cans clinking and rusted instruments.
When you want, let me show you a couple things here. All right, this will give you an idea of some of the sounds. You know the sounds that an orchestra makes. You know the beautiful, wonderful sounds. But in Lost, you don't always get the beautiful and wonderful. So like the strings. Let's go with the violins and violas on this. Let's just go, just. Sometimes you can just bend the notes up, and here's an example of that. That's kind of fun, right? And the cellos, normally you would, have these beautiful melodies playing in the cellos, but no, here's how we use them. Yes. That's fine. The trombones, you mentioned the trombones. Ready? Here we go. There's that.
How do you explain that to them now? I want you to do this
You draw
like
a note
you're
here.
about to fall over and
You draw
faint.
a note here on the page with a straight line down. That usually explains it. And then, of course, it can be beautiful, too. Mark over here on the piano, Mark Asparo, who played all the piano on Lost in all the years. Me standing over him, softer, softer. And then, of course, we can have him do something like this. Or... So, yeah, it can be both. Let's see, there's Mark over here. And then, of course, Gail, who has also played the harp on every single episode. You may remember her from the Jimmy Kimmel episode. She was in the background. Oh. Whose theme is this? Anyone? There you go, Jin and Sun. So there you go, there's that, but then she does a lot of this too. Ready? And sometimes I'd have her do it for like 16 bars. That'd be the only thing playing. And then one of my favorite sounds over here, there's Emilie Richards up there, who played on the original Planet of the Apes. And I mean the original one. Emilie, ready? Give me on the enclons there. Ready? Go ahead, just do it. There, that's an awesome sound as well. There's Danny over here, who's playing on everything I've ever done. Danny, give me some jungle drums. And then, of course, my buddy Don Williams over here on the timpani. Yeah, go ahead, Don, just do it. So there's so much fun to be had. So much fun to be had. So really support musicians wherever you can, because if we don't get to do this. So please do it, please. And thank you for coming.
Josh and I are going to go practice now.
That trombone sound is such a delight.
It is. I was amazed by how many of them I just immediately recognized,
Yep.
even though I never would have been able to produce them from memory.
Yep. So the final thing we are going to hear from this show, well, they'll explain.
Yeah, so we're going to hear from Andrea, Gabriel, and then from Rebecca Mader, so let's listen in.
The first time we did a Lost concert was in Hawaii, actually. And it was a couple seasons in, and we had decided to do one there at the Bowl. And one of the things that we did, which was one of my favorite parts of the show, was we sort of said to ourselves, like, well, I wonder what those letters were that they put in that bottle, you know? There was a lot of other people on that island, all those blurry people in the background. What were they thinking, and who were they writing to? So we talked with the writers of the show, and they actually wrote us a bunch of letters to read in between all of the pieces of music that we played. Just to sort of imagine what kinds of thoughts went down on paper and got put into that bottle when it went out on the raft. So let's have, we have Andrea Gabriel. Which way is she coming out? Right here she is. Come on out. How are you doing? Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. So she's going to read one of our letters.
Thanks. Best fan base in the world, by the way. Dear Grandpa, I never believed in God until I came to this place. The first night on the beach, I followed the embers of our campfires up into the clear and infinite sky, and I didn't see stars. I saw entire galaxies. I was so overwhelmed by what I saw, and that I was alive, and that I was a part of everything that I was seeing. Albert Einstein once said, there are only two ways to live. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as if everything is. I am definitely in the latter camp now. Just like the lights of Los Angeles always kept me from ever really seeing the sky, before I got here, I was blinded by my focus on myself. God and the stars and the rest of the world were always there for me. It just took me until now to finally see them. Love, your granddaughter, Jessie.
Please welcome up Rebecca Mader.
Hi, everyone. I'm not allowed to have chocolate before dinner. Dear Isabel, when I was about your age, my Uncle Edgar travelled to Antarctica. And every night I lay awake trying to imagine his adventures. I couldn't wait for him to come home, and when he finally returned, he came over for dinner. And I grilled him with questions, but he just went all quiet, and I couldn't get anything out of him. 6 months at the end of the earth, and all he could say was how much he missed Grandma's pies. Now I know why. Living on this island, words seem completely inadequate to the task at hand. How would I tell you about the colour of the sky? What about the words for an ocean that it's not blue, but 5,000 different hues every time I blink? How could I describe a beauty that is overwhelming and terrifying all at the same time? My darling daughter, I'm sorry. I'm missing you growing up. If I ever find my way home, I promise I will find the words to tell you all of my stories, somehow. Love, your mother.
So actually, this is the second time I heard some of those letters, because they did a selection of them at this similar concert event that I went to.
That's right.
Right before the finale aired in 2010. Really, really beautiful. I'm glad they kept these around.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to be so poetic.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, they didn't really. They are really, really beautiful, but they didn't really give these new characters backstories, which makes sense. Because why figure out, like, oh, well, this person has a sister who has cancer, and, you know, you could have invented a million things, but just to keep it simple and, really beautiful. And it was interesting to hear, like, these people did not hate being on this island. All they could write about was how beautiful it was. You know?
Maybe they didn't read the other 35 letters, which were just the people being like, I hope I get to see you again someday. This is terrible. I'm stuck on
I think
an
I might
island."
die. There's a lot of crazy shit happening.
Actually, speaking of might die, one thing that made me realize listening to these, it's like I started to think like, oh, like, gee, all of the other background survivors must have died, huh? And it's like, yeah, they did. You go on Lostpedia and you look at the list of survivors, and it turns out like 15 or 20 of them died in the flashes in season 5 and like a flaming arrow attack from the others in the 50s.
Oh, jeez.
Which I had totally forgotten about. It was like, that was the event they used to explain away the deaths of like every other character.
To just kill off the remaining extras.
Yeah, presumed dead in the flaming arrow attack.
Oh, no.
I know.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, poor guys. Anyway.
Well, on that note, let's just hear some closing thoughts from Damon and Carlton.
Oh, we got lost. All right. Oh, man. I've only cried 3 times. Before we go any further, there's actually 2 other people who we want to acknowledge here. And I was particularly struck by it by just watching the faces of all the incredible people who were in the cast. And our fantastic casting director, April Webster, is here tonight. April, can you just stand up? April. Thank you, April. And the person behind the scenes who, this is an incredibly complicated thing to put this thing on. And we want to thank Maria Giacchino, Michael's sister, who produced this evening.
Wait. Are you going to thank anyone else, or can I add one more thank you?
No, you can.
Please.
I want to thank also, because what I tell the orchestra always is, I have nothing but, just dots on a page, nothing. They're pieces of paper that are worthless unless someone can play them. And similarly, the show is nothing without words and writers. So thank you guys and your team of writers. You guys, please. We have nothing. We would not all be here without you. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right before the intermission, we were all standing up there, Carlton and I, and all the cast members and our families, watching the raft launch yet again, crying, listening to your beautiful music, and watching these amazing musicians execute it. But I think that what made the moment memorable in a way that I've never experienced it before was that we were here with all of you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. The fan community that has basically kept the show going is humbling on every level imaginable, and thank you for sharing this incredible evening with us. It's an honor to share with you.
Thank you, guys.
So we're just going to bring out, are we inviting all
Can we
the
have
actors,
all the actors who
were
involved
reading
tonight?
come back
Please
on
come
up.
on stage. April, come on up too. Come on, April.
Webster.
And most of all, we want to thank this man here, who is Michael is just not only an extraordinary composer, but an incredible human being. And the show, this is just absolute proof tonight. The show would just be nothing like what it is without his music, and it's such a treat to be here with you and all of you guys, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for coming. All right.
Thank
See
you
you
guys.
guys.
So on that note, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll have an episode on the 23rd Psalm.
We're going to bring you a different kind of interview in that episode with Dr. Jonathan Gray, who's a scholar of television studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, has written pretty extensively on Lost, including some really interesting things about Mr. Echo and the role of the quote-unquote others in the show and how it plays with stereotypes and who's foreign and who's not. I think it's a really cool perspective, and it opened my eyes.
I am super excited to hear this too. Rosie did this one, so I have not heard it yet, so I am waiting in suspense with the rest of you for this interview.
As always, you can connect with us, chat with us on the social media. We are at facebook.com/thehatchpodcast, on Twitter @thehatchpodcast.
Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or whichever app you use to listen to this show. It helps other people find us, and we appreciate it.
Our theme music is by Andy G. Cohen, and our cover art is by Danny Roth.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Namaste.